Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And I continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you will learn to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. And with that, I greet you all, and I continue to hope that through all of the things and all the confusion that's going on, that you are keeping as much of a level head as possible. It's crazy out there. And so I bring this subject up sort of a little late, I guess, in that in a lot of the things that I discuss, I haven't really, it's been a while since I've addressed the idea of doing shadow work or doing, the deep, dark secrets work and doing the inner work and that kind of thing. And I want to stress to folks that there seems to be a sort of um, a thought wave, a pattern or something that possibly, I'm trying to ignore that part of spirituality, not in the least. I kind of figure that everybody knows that you got to do that deep spiritual work without going into a lot of detail about it, or, you don't discuss it. And what about going into the darkness? And it's like, it seems like people want to linger in the darkness a little too long about things. Now, so my reference to the darkness in this particular video, you could take for the darkness of the soul. Okay, if you want to go there. But there are things that are in people's souls that is darkness. Now, one of the things we have to make sure that we understand, it's like for me, part of the darkness in my soul was a previous darkness, not of this timeline. It was, or at least not in the present time, okay? It was a previous time. And so I've understood for a while that the reason I'm back and I'm here on this particular piece of property is because I used to live right around here way back in the day. And I did some pretty horrible and mean and bad and nasty things. I was, anyway. But with that though, I had to do the soul work, that dark side, if you will, and realize that there was something bigger because of how I got this place, how I found it, etc. And of also the spirits that have been seen here on this property. Okay, many of them, different kinds. But there are several spirits that have been seen consistently. So, let me say hi to folks. Sarah Horton, if you're still there, if you're listening, great. Brian Lunsford, if you're out there, greetings, my brother. Barry Chad, thank you. Candy Apple, Project Skyfalls. Hi, everybody. You don't have to get in the chat. You can just listen. But if anybody has any particular questions about like working in the darkness or shadows or anything like that, if you got something you want to ask, put it in the chat, and I'm going to try to keep an idea. I'm going to try to keep an eye on it. And so, but anyway, so if you have any questions or something, put them in there. So, but anyway, so working in the shadows. So we can consider the darkness of the soul, but working in the darkness is a lot different when you use the darkness in terms of the way many native nations think of it, in terms of like, I've pulled the bear card several times, and in it, in having to do with the bear, it has to do with hibernation. And the hibernation is something that each one of us needs to do. And sometimes some of us need to do it on a frequent basis. But it has nothing to do with depression. So we go inside ourselves, however each one of us finds that to do. And you allow yourself to sort of lay in the blackness that would be like a hibernation. You're in a womb. It's just dark. It's not bad. It's just dark. Okay. So in the darkness, you seek the answers that are always there. So if you consider the universe, so I like to go outside and look up at the stars. And if I can't go outside, then I imagine the stars because I've seen the stars so much. Now, in this, though, when we take on this type of, if you want to call it soul searching, okay, and it is that. And there are things that some people have to go inside and work on. But here's the thing. A lot of the things and a lot of the anger and stuff that I worked on actually had to do with the previous reincarnation. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to go through this, but for me, it's true. So can I remember any other incarnations? No, but the previous one, I was not so much a nice guy. Mistreated women, Indians, that kind of thing. And I think that's one reason why I'm here this time around. And I got sort of pigtails today. But the idea, though, that I had to find out where I went wrong in the last life and understand that I mistreated folks. And so in this journey, I had to walk in their moccasins. I had to find out what it was like to be Native American. So I've got Native American heritage. My great-great-grandmother was full blood. My great-grandmother was half, and my grandmother was half Cherokee. So there is that bloodline in me. And I have no idea the Null side of the family, but for the Lee side of the family, it's there. So, but anyway, not trying to necessarily lay any claims. But I did put down as to, when we had to do the census this year, I did put down Native American because I am a native that I grew up in America. So that is a true statement, whether or not somebody wants to give me an RNA, DNA, some kind of test to find out if I actually do. That's not the point. Anyway, I just don't consider myself, quote, white. All right. It just don't work. Anyway, so, but in this idea though, so what we have to, in the answers in the darkness that we seek, we want to know if maybe some of what we're feeling in this life is actually a reverberation of a previous life. For me, it definitely was. So in doing my shadow work, soul work, I had to deal with that. I had to see it. I had to understand it. I had to go, oh, crap. And I had to go through the guilt and the shame and the whole process of what I did in a previous life around here. And that, I needed to do better in this time around, which I was given the opportunity, in my humble opinion, to be able to choose this spiritual path this time around. So in my understanding, like Edgar Cayce has discussed, and also in some other things I've known about, but it's coming back out again, which I think is good. In that case, he says that we are angel beings and we have the opportunity to accept or reject the soul and become, for me to become David Null, okay? And whatever this path or whatever this journey was going to be, I saw ahead of time what some of this was. So in becoming more spiritual, you are remembering those things. Like, why did I choose to come down in this life, in this body, with these troubles and this stuff. Now, things that happen along the way are not necessarily, they weren't necessarily part of the contract. You know what I mean? Hi, Robert V. How are you? So we have to make the distinction. Okay, if I feel some kind of darkness in my soul, is this present situation or is it a previous situation? So you say, well, okay, well, wait a minute. Well, I feel something. Okay, everybody's got their own thing. So I had some reason, I had a lot of anger, a lot of leftover anger from somewhere. And so in my younger days, I wouldn't pick a fight with you with my fist, but I'd argue and scream at you and holler and cuss, and that wasn't pretty, And I deeply regret those days, and I'm highly embarrassed because they happened. But I look back at that and go, man, no wonder some people didn't like me back then. It's like, but that wasn't my intent. But it ended up being that way because of my tone of voice and my anger issues. So it's like, all right, well, so you got to go inside and say, well, I got to take care of this anger stuff. Where's it coming from? Who is it? What's responsible for it? Also, so in my darkness, because of what happened to me with the priest back in the day, I was dealing with guilt, the darkness of what these people did in the church and the mistrust and all the Catholic stuff and all that. So there was a darkness that was tied in a big knot around all of that. And so I was angry, I was pissed, I was, and in some ways I still am, but that was part of doing the shadow work. I knew that those things existed, and trying to put them out of my mind did not work through drugs or alcohol or staying drunk or, high on something all the time, which I realized some of my internal issues became in reality my drug abuse, because I just, I just didn't want to be able to stop us think about this stuff. Well, but what I didn't know at the time was that if I had dealt with it, then it wouldn't bother me, So in that darkness, in that soul work, you have to go in and look at it and go, yep, that happened. So now what's the situation? Can you change anything? No. Have you survived up to this point? Yes. Are you still mad at those priests that did what they did? Yes. Does being angry to them, with them, about them doing you any good right now? No. Okay, then why are you still angry? Because they did this to me, but it's over. We're talking 35 years later kind of thing, 30 years later. Okay, so then what do you do? Well, you have to stop and say, is it going to do you any good to be angry from this point forward? Because if you're honestly doing that, working in the darkness, and in the darkness, I was also working with the a different type of darkness that was related to anger, and it was coming out as anger when I didn't understand where this internal anger was coming from. So I was mad at my grandmother for abandoning me when I was, a little over 3 years old, standing in the snow just before Christmas. I remember that shit. And I'm angry about her, kind of, sort of still, but, she's dead, long gone. So, but to the point, though, all of these things that pissed me off was where my anger was coming from. It wasn't really coming from anything in my world, because I could deal with that. If somebody's going to piss you off, you just don't go around them, you don't hang around them, whatever. So for me, I had to be able to take each one of those things and look at it from that observational point of view, to be the observer. So, in my humble opinion, in order to do correct soul work, you must practice and become that observer. Okay, because otherwise, how you won't be able to look at whatever it is that's making you mad or whatever, and to be able to not necessarily take it apart, but you must break it down to its basic components. All right. Now, I realized at one point in doing my soul work, about the priest and the thing, I was getting into some really minute details. I was recalling things that I really didn't want to think about. And in that, it just sort of made me more mad. And then I realized, does does my brain want to go through so much detail about this right now? And I think because I had to let that movie run and just go, okay, it's over. Those are the things you remember, not necessarily in that order, but you remember it, and it's been tucked away in a closet somewhere in the back of your mind. And it's like, so, but now that I've done my soul work into, that was a dark period of my life, and I realized how much I allowed that darkness to affect a lot of other things from that point forward to the point that I'm doing the soul work. So in being that neutral observer, but you got to be able to look at it and go, well, see, then when you were angry back here 10 years ago about something and you acted like a jackass, you were actually mad because there was an anger there, and that anger then was related to the anger from before. Oh yeah, I can see where that was. And then other things sort of pop up from that point forward. So in dealing with the oldest item, which is the cause and effect for other things, my drug issues, being drunk all the time, I didn't want to think about that shit. Have another beer, Dave. I would drink a quart of Jack Daniels every single weekend. Okay. A lot of times by myself. Okay. And so when I was hanging around with my guitar and going to different places and playing and singing and doing all that, they used to call me Happy Jack, was my nickname, because I always had a bottle of Jack Daniels in my guitar and a harmonica. But anyway, those were the days, my friend. But to the point, though, of this, why did I want to stay in this altered state of mind? Because I didn't like the state of mind my mind was in. Okay. Not really knowing, because I had altered my state of mind with, alcohol and drugs, that the problem never did go away. It's always there, as they say. You can drink until you're blind, but the problem doesn't go away. It's still there the next day. So, and that is so true. So the best thing you can do is, if you're going to do soul work, then whatever it is, and you ain't got to share it with anybody. It's up to you. But in that, you have to be able to pick one thing. Now, when I was dealing with the priest issue and stuff, there was also some church issues in that thing as well. It wasn't just the pedophilia by the priest. It was, how the Catholic Church let me down, let other people down, and and in a way promoted these pedophile priests, and to my opinion, they still haven't, apologized, correctly. And anyway, so, but to the point, though, I had to understand that I had to allow myself a specific amount of time to deal with this. In other words, I wasn't going to take 2 months to work this out. No, I'm going to do my shadow work on this particular item, because I had had enough, right? All right, so I'm angry. Why? Well, I don't know. Well, I go to therapy. I was going to mental health and going to therapy, trying to get somebody else to help me figure this shit out. But they were giving me drugs that was altering my point of view, so I could never really quite get to it. You know what I'm saying? So it was an elusive answer. But I did discuss and found out that with a lot of adopted children, there is an internal sense of abandonment, and like 60 or 70% of adopted children, especially those who may have known their mother, which I did off and on over the course of 3.5 years, until my Uncle Arnie adopted me, which pissed off my grandmother big time. Thus we moved to Florida. But anyway, but in that, so there is this really warped story within the family. Not that there was anything wrong with what my uncle did. He saved me and my sister from being split up, and kept us in the family. So, but my grandmother, being that Christian Catholic biatch that she was, wanted us out of the family because we were a disgrace. Okay. So in that, there is all of this forgiveness, So you look at certain items and you go, man, I can't believe Granny did that. Man, I can't. So you end up with all these facts. So what you do is you have to lump them up in a ball or package or a box, however you want to look at it, and go, okay, I'm going to deal with this box of stuff. All right. I'm going to look at these pictures. I'm going to look at this little video. I'm going to have this little memory. But in the end of this, in this session of doing soul work, I'm going to deal with Granny and some of those things that she did. And, oh, she was cruel. And yes, okay. But we're going to look at all of them in the box, and either we're going to lock the box up, or we're going to toss it out, or we're going to burn it, but we're going to deal with it. So I can still have certain memories. So I don't think I burned the box. You know what I mean? But in that, the box is put away. And so any emotions that, and I talk about this all the time, those old memories that are past, we have to take our emotions out of them, because otherwise we continue the pain forward. And we can't do that. It drags us down, especially over time. So, and that is part of this spiritual awakening when you start seeing these things. Now, not everybody has to do the same amount of soul work. I mean, but I don't know what happened to you as a child, or, in your family, whatever. But, I've seen some of the best families from the outside have some really weird stuff go on the inside, So it's like, and I don't mean necessarily sexual or anything like that, or it's more of a mind play or trick or something. And to me, that's almost as perverted as being sexual. But anyway, because it's more subversive is what I mean in that respect. Any kind of fondling or anything, it's happening. So, but any kind of mind warping, like my adopted mother did, it just messed with your head, and you didn't know which way to turn or what to do or to who to trust. I mean, it was really, so in that, not that I wish that she had touched me, but in that I wished it hadn't, that subtlety that goes on with someone playing with your mind, especially a growing teenager trying to figure out life. And there's all of these abandonment issues, and they keep telling me lies. And in my search for the truth, I uncovered that, wait a minute, I'm adopted. You ain't my mom and dad, and who's Dolores? Oh, that's my aunt, so, well, we weren't really going to tell you. What? Well, my brothers and my half brothers and sisters, from the time that they were old enough, they were told they had an older brother and sister who lived with their Uncle Arnie. So the other side of the family was totally honest. My side, Bessie, she, lied till she died. I mean, she took things with her to the grave. So, and a lot of hostility too. Her crossing didn't go well. But not passing judgment. It just didn't go well. But in this soul work that we do and working in the shadows, so we say, okay, but that shadow work, why you keep saying working in the shadows? Well, because they were affecting my life in the form of anger issues and the abandonment issues. And why couldn't I seem to be able to get a good, honest to God, solid hug without somebody betraying me or abandoning me or something. And that took a long time to overcome, because of the initial abandonment back as a child and the adoption thing, right? So I knew who mom was, but she wasn't there anymore. So, and as a little kid, you're always wondering what's going on. So for me, and the fact that they continued to lie made that, and then I had to deal with the fact they lied to me about all this stuff. Now I'm pissed about that. You see what I mean? So there was all this anger bundled up and stuff. Again, other people don't have this kind of work, but it's the best I can do as far as an example. So, but what you need to do, I had to go in and go, okay, it took me it took me longer to forgive Bessie, my adopted mother, than it did anybody else. I mean, even the priests, because she knew what she was doing. And I lived with her every day growing up, and she knew what she was doing. The priest thing, short period of time. Bessie, all my life growing up. And the things that she hid, and the little games that she played, and here, take this picture. And what she was doing, she'd sit us all on the couch and everything and look nice. And she was sending pictures to my mother saying, "Oh, look what I've done for your children. Look, see how good I am of a mother for you," and all this. And it's just like, you just wanted to throw up. But anyway, with that said, though, doing this shadow work, being able to look at what has made you angry and be able to say, okay, from this point on, I'm just not gonna, I'm removing any emotional attachment to that event, because you're not going to forget it. And trying to forget it is going to spend you more energy and take you off your path. So in this darkness, you realize there's the light. And you look around and go, well, what do you mean? But that's the answer, you see. When you pull your emotions out of an event that's already passed, nothing we can do about it. Whatever guilt or whatever it is, it ceases. And you make the decision, and here's the hard part, you stick with it. So soul work isn't worth a damn if you don't follow through on what you've learned. So if you learn that I can't keep being emotional about this, and then you do, well, then you haven't learned. Well, I did learn this, and I did do some soul work. Well, then why are you still carrying on about it? Now, see, I didn't want to bring up the priest issue and stuff, but I was like, well, but everybody sort of knows that, and I can explain, because that was a very traumatic event, in that, we have to put things away. Lots of other stuff along the way, but that's just two events in my life, with the adoption and with the priesthood, but it goes back to when I was really young. So maybe some of you might have had some kind of weird something happen to you when you was a kid, and not just that affected you for whatever way it did. And so you might have a deep, I don't know where that came from. Or I remember as a kid there was something. Okay. Well, so it's still in your memory. So then go into the darkness and listen for the answer that's already there, because that's what the cards keep telling us. The answers are in the darkness. So I was listening today to one of the recent dark journalist things. I can't remember his name now, but anyway, talking about remote viewing, ESP, and the fact and discussing our consciousness. Now, I wrote these sort of interesting points down, and it's relative to this doing the dark work. Okay. Hi, Project. Hey, Teresa. Um, Somebody asked a question. I wasn't paying attention, and I said I would. I was. Hawkeye was a meanie. I was cruel to Native Americans. I mean, I was a white supremacist back in the day, but that was also back in the day when Andy Jackson and them folks and the Trail of Tears. And so it was sort of back in the day when they hung black folk, just and everybody got together on the Sunday because they was going to have a lynching, um, Russell Targ, thank you very much. It wasn't that interesting, Michelle. Did you listen to it? But anyway, in that, here's what I there was a lot of stuff to take away from it. And for those of you who know who the dark journalist is, just check it out on YouTube. And it is Russell Targ that was his recent. Hi, David Castle. So in this, timeless awareness in the universe on the quantum level, like Buddha, in that all of the consciousness has no limits. There is no separation of consciousness. So there are times when I'm sitting here and I've had a thought about something or whatever, and one of you all might say, wow, I was just thinking about that. Okay. It's happened a bunch of times and probably will again, but that is the consciousness. And so it isn't that Buddha or Confucius or the Taoist or the Taoist or any of them folks. This is knowledge 500 years, 1,000 years before Christ, okay? And that's one of the things that the Vatican hides, is that, Jesus went east and learned about these Middle Eastern traditions and the Buddha consciousness and things like that. That's what he was bringing back, to bring people into the awareness of, you don't have to be a Jew to go to heaven. You don't have to go to the synagogue. You don't have to pay, and you don't have to make these sacrifices. He was trying to give everybody a different, which that's what happened. But if you understand it from his point of view, it's like, wait, and then they turned the church and kind of screwed him on the deal. It turned into something I'm sure he would not have approved. But with that, though, in this, that there is a timeless awareness. So our awareness of the universe being timeless is in the past, and it's also in the future. So when you're doing the hibernation thing, and when you're listening to the universe, when you're listening, you have to specify past, present, or future. Now, present, that's sort of the future. I mean, because if it's already happened, then, so as I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking in the future and also in the past, because now only is that quantum split second in time. So, but the awareness of what I would like to discuss is in my head in the future. But I've already discussed these things that I've just mentioned. Okay. So both of them, though, exist right now. But here's the thing, they existed before and they'll exist after. So there's no time limits on awareness. So if you take this into consideration, which in spiritualness and understanding and the universe and what the power is all about, the power is being able to understand it. Well, I don't know if that's true. Well, if you learn it through the universe, practice certain techniques, things that I've talked about in previous videos, like how to teach yourself how to tell time without a watch. You do the clock meditation thing and you get used to it. And oh my God, you find out that you're almost exactly right all the time. And you don't need no stinking watch, but anyway. So there's no limits to consciousness. So one of the things that I have talked about, but not recently, is that one of the things that we do, whether we're asleep or awake, our subconscious is recording everything. So as I'm looking into this little camera thing, I'm looking down the list and everything. I'm looking over here, and over here in the dark, though, is the dog. And I know the dog's over here, and over here is the light. I can see it out of my peripheral vision. But the thing is, though, that all of this is being recorded. Although my focus is right here, these other things are going on and my brain's still recording it, okay? Because it's in the field of view of my camera. You understand? So, but then when you're sleeping, there's still stuff going on. So if you understand that there's no limits to consciousness, it means that you can take your unconscious mind and bring it forward, and vice versa. When you're, quote, unconscious or in a dream state, so your body's in a rest, but your brain's still awake. So you are still conscious, all right? So in that event, you start to understand that the awareness is not one or the other. It is actually both. So in learning to be more spiritual, you begin to understand that dream state and awake state. Wow, and a lot of people are having that, that in between kind of looks like you're sitting on a fence kind of deal. But when actually, you're in your subconscious seeing and hearing things and that may be past, but I think that many of us are having some our future thoughts are being affected. And so as much as I would like to talk about doom and gloom and recent shit, ain't gonna go there. Now that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, okay? So, but I'm not gonna give it any energy. But at the same point, I know it's there, as a lot of us do. And so what do we do about this? Well, in listening to Simon Parkes today, I'm doing some ketchup work. And I like ketchup on French fries too. But anyway, and on scrambled eggs, you got to have it. But anyway, so the idea, though, that what's happening now in this transition of stuff is that those of us who have a little bit of glimpse of reality, we have to stay strong and go, all right, now everybody, let's be calm. We've got to be level-headed about this. Let's not go, shooting our mouths off and and making a big deal. There are things in the works. We'll see how they turn out. But at the same time, Simon suggests that we have a meditation, a general meditation for the population of the earth, just as the meditation is just to help increase their well-being. Now, that's not a bad idea, in my humble opinion. So we all just kind of meditate for a couple of minutes and say, okay, I just wish for humanity to get a boost, get an uplift in energy, instead of everybody being so depressed and all this confusion. So it's like, that's not a bad idea. So he's promoting that as what can we do as spiritual workers. And for those folks who are connected with the connecting consciousness, right? Which is interesting because I'm talking about consciousness from a different source and then listening to Simon Parkes usually for connecting consciousness. So where I pick up information is a broad spectrum across the board. And I still pick up some interesting places along the line. But so can we do something? Yes, we can. We can all spend 2 minutes and give a prayer to the universe, to humanity for an uplift. That sounds like a good idea. So in the future, I'm maybe tomorrow, who knows, but soon, I'm going to just take some time out, and we can do it right now for the next minute or so. If y'all listen, want to participate, then just, I'll shut up for a minute. And, the prayer is simple, that we, regardless of who you voted for, regardless of spirituality, regardless of whether you're not like some asshole somewhere in the universe, not the point. Okay. We have to just say, with my intent right now, I wish to send a prayer to humanity that they will be uplifted in spirit so we can make it through this time. And it feels like you do it daily, Michelle. That's great. You like mustard? Hi, Lady Spitfire. How are you? You actually made it to something. That's funny. But so anyway, but in this idea of shadow work, so that's working on the negative side of things, if you will, for any of those folks out there who have things in those shadows. So the shadows don't mean, and this is, I think sometimes the feeling I get with what some folks, I don't know, the thought behind their comments, I guess. I understand that there's evil out there on so many levels, but I cannot give any of them any energy. But I know that they're there. It's like the story, and I think I've mentioned this, but in my learning about shamanism and speaking with these elders, there was the story about the being that shall not be named. And so it's like, but what is it? We don't talk about it. Well, but then why did you tell me? Well, I have to tell you in that there are things you don't name, you don't discuss them, you don't think about them. And the fact that we're talking about it right now, it's not a good thing. And I'm like, well, is it somewhere nearby? And it was like, would you just stop? And so, that which will not be named, okay, or whose name shall not be spoken, a lot of different ways you could, but right now, So when you understand that they do exist, but we're not going to talk about them, we're not going to mention their names, but the awareness of it is enough. Okay. So what we focus on are the more positive things, because we know that these darker entities are trying to chew at us, right? So the war is we keep up the light, we keep the fire going, you know. There are wolves and coyotes circling the campsite, but as long as the fire is up, they won't come in, you know. So, somebody's got to be the fire watcher. But in each one of us, we have to become our own fire watchers in that, right? So by focusing on your inner campfire and making sure that you keep it fed, your interior light will shine out and ain't no wolves gonna want to come in. Okay. They're afraid of that light. But well, wait a minute now. Now you're talking about wolves in the darkness. Well, okay, but to the point though of this, if you're just sure that you can keep your fire going, then there's there's no reason or necessity to feel like, that they're going to get me. So, you can see them out there in the darkness or going around the campfire and around the camp. But as long as you got that campfire going, they're not coming in. No matter how hungry they are, they don't want to come in. So let that fire go down, though, and they'll creep right on in, right? There's something about it. So if you take that same analogy and use it for yourself, if you think, oh man, the darkness is closing in, go get some firewood. What does that mean? Well, it could mean that you just need to sit down and meditate a little bit, or go get a cool one or cold one or whatever. It's all right to have a glass of wine. It's not okay to be drunk all the time, but maybe it's a walk outside. Maybe it's something, a distraction, or the fact that you just say, I can feel this stuff get me down. I ain't going to, that's it. I've had enough. And you don't let it do it. So you make a line in the sand. Now, that is sort of a subject for another discussion, but I will briefly put this out here. I mentioned, I think, in a video the other day, in that, Sasha Stone or whoever it is and some other folks, not to be disrespectful, but they talked about the line in the sand. Well, here's the thing. We're going to continue to get things thrown at us. So the line in the sand that we draw right now may have to change. So, and if we draw a solid line and say, that's it, then, we might compromise our own self, or, because things are going to be changing, and we just need to understand that we have boundaries. I wouldn't necessarily say draw a line in the sand yet, but I would absolutely say, like the armadillo card that I pulled recently, in that armadillo says, know where your shield is. So what, is going to be your comfort zone. So, you can walk around. So, for example, if you make a line in the sand, then that means you're standing on one side or the other of it. But if you take the idea of armadillo with that armor, then you take that line with you. It is your armor. You know what I mean? So the line in the sand is what you believe. And if something changes, then you can modify that line. But there are folks who are like, they're making it such that you can't nothing can cross that line. Now I get what they mean, but there are going to be circumstances that maybe some of us foresee in the darkness that if they come true. So what I don't want to try to look into the future, although there's things that have been coming at many of us. And we understand that if certain things turn out in certain ways, things are going to go this way. You know what I mean? And so I don't have to go into detail about it, that y'all get it. So, but if I talk about it for the next hour, then that brings energy to it. You know what I mean? So in that, I would prefer, and a lot of other people are in agreement with this, is that We know it's there. We're keeping an eye on it. I'm not giving up, and I don't want other folks to give up. This thing about the voting and stuff. No, they need to see this through. There's some hanky panky going on, and that's all I'm going to say about it. So, but we want to know the truth. But, I don't think we should give up until we know more of the truth. You know what I mean? Too soon. Anyway, especially here in Georgia, there's a bunch of us Georgians that are pissed off, let me tell you. And the South shall rise again in that respect, let me tell you. I'm proud of the folks in my neighborhood. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but when I went to vote the other day, me and the dog, of course, he doesn't have a driver's license yet, but there were, no one in the poll place was wearing a mask. Nobody was worried about the COVID thing. There wasn't any kind of everybody was washing this and that. And, there was one guy you were given this pen to vote or with or something anyway, and to sign your name at the bottom of the ballot or whatever. And he was taking them and he was wiping them off. And then they're taking them back into the day. But they weren't spraying them down. He didn't have a mask and gloves on. No, they were just being careful. And I'm proud. And I talked with some other folks around here. And they were like, yeah, it felt normal again. So if those folks, and this is working in the darkness, because in our future darkness, we can see something we don't want to see. It's that thing we do not wish to mention, whose name we do not speak. And so here's the thing. If we don't speak of it, we can't bring it into existence. So in looking into the darkness, we've looked at the past, we've seen it, it's already occurred. But in this silence of the darkness, there are future answers. And it greatly depends on events, right? So do we, in working out our issues, do we focus strictly on the negative and strictly to the point that, well, this has upset me and I'm pissed off? Yeah, okay. You got 5 minutes to be pissed off and then get over it. Doesn't mean forget it. It means get over it, because we cannot bring this forward. So this is going to be, for a lot of us, this is going to be a really big challenge, mentally, physically, and spiritually, regardless of how this goes, as to who actually ends up being the winner. But we all know there's something fishy going on, just too weird. And this idea, oh, no, it ain't. No, it ain't. Look over here. No, ain't going to buy it. I want to hear the answer to this. Even if it goes to the, to the slow man, I'm going to leave it at that. Okay. So if we're doing work in the darkness, seeking answers to the questions that have already been asked, because that's what this is about. Because that consciousness is timeless, we actually already know certain things. And I think that's why some of us have got this really weird pit in our stomach at the moment going, I seem to remember something from the past. And maybe it's because some of our souls were a previous incarnation, and we have been in a similar situation, World War I, for example, or, the Civil War, or, something. But that people, people were pulling shenanigans and convincing other people. I mean, the Jesuits, in a large part, were responsible for the North and the South going to war. And Lincoln bitched about it in some of the letters that he wrote. It's very interesting in that respect. So people have been tampering with, society and with wars and people and stuff like that for a long time. So Do we have to pick it apart? No, but we have to understand that it has been going on, and that they're still at it. Okay. So what do we do about it? We stay out of their realm. We can say within our own armadillo shield, I do not consent. You know, this idea that all these people that I saw at the polling booth the other day who didn't have masks on, who were perfectly sane and quiet. I'm not sick. None of them made me sick from being there or being around them. And I don't think I gave them anything because I'm not sick. So, you know what I mean? So, but the idea, though, that it would be mandatory if we voted again that we would have to wear a mask. Now, I don't know who would enforce it out here, but that's not the point. The point is that there are certain factions who would want to make us do this thing. So now this event has already passed with the people and everything. But now I wonder, knowing what we know, as to what is in the darkness for the future events. So for me, I don't really want to look. I don't really want to look. But there seems to be some stuff out there that each one of us are feeling. Now, why is this important? Because consciousness is timeless. That's why. So we may be remembering something old as well as seeing something that's coming here in the future to formulate right now here in the present. So I personally believe that we're all here at this time for whatever reason it is, but it's damn sure for our own spiritual development, mankind's there seems to be a lot at stake here. Not just this, that, and the other thing, but I mean, in terms of personal spiritual awareness, personal spiritual and mental growth, and understanding that when you begin to understand that you can sort of remote view plans for a new spaceship or something, or if you really knew what you were doing, you could that's I would let me back up. Drink a coffee. Hi, Bob. Hi, everybody. Michelle, David Castle, anybody else? Lady Spitfire. Yeah, let me read what y'all are chatting about. I missed the live stream tonight, David. I'm very sorry. I missed it. I'm going to have to go back and watch it. I was in the middle of stuff and doing the dog and anyway, but I missed it. A droplet of water just landed on my phone screen over my avatar picture. I was encapsulated in a bubble. Don't do the dog. Yeah, he had to go outside and do his run around and you're north of Macon, right, Lady Spitfire? Brian Lunsford, I believe, lives down in Florida, which isn't too far away from me. He lives closer to my daughter. Mossy Man, it's lowercase. Let me just do it this way. I'll type it into the south of Chattanooga. So, you're north of, then you're, oh, that's right. You're north of Atlanta too, up around Adairsville, right? Is that right, Lady Spitfire? I thought, yeah, okay, I got it wrong. Yeah, you're north of. Nope. It's without The W is in there by accident. Okay. It's just dwnull52@gmail. Okay. Without the W. Anyway, hi, Teresa. Michelle said I had abandonment issues to work through too. Yeah, folks have those kind of issues. I mean, you can be with your natural mother and still have abandonment issues. My I'm the oldest of three in under my uncle Arnie on Pops. So me and my sister Lynn were from the same mother, different fathers, but our brother is actually our cousin. So he's a natural born of Bessie and Arnie, right? But there were times when he felt just as abandoned as we did. So, and he was their natural son, you know? So, but anyway, yeah, you don't have to go through a lot of stuff to, it's lowercase, Michelle. It's all lowercase. By the way, didn't know if you knew you had caps on, but it's all lowercase. But anyway, but in this shadow work, so we have to understand, that now for me, I have to go back to the same thing. The priests were my demons. The guilt that I had for not, fighting them and punching them out, or maybe even just strangling them to death at the time, didn't cross my mind. And the fact that I became this, didn't know what to do, and then the next thing you know, it's been done to you, kind of thing. It's a very surreal place you go to. But with that place, that later on when you're doing the soul work, though, there are folks who will talk about their inner demons. So to me, those were my inner demons who were I was picking up the anger from what that had done, right? So, but from those inner demons of incidents that happened, I had become a demon in certain respects because I allowed the anger to continue. And, so kind of sort of two demons there, the ones that created and the one that I became as a result of it, and also the victim. Oh my God, we play the victim card. Can't do that. Okay. So in the things in doing your dark work in the darkness, the answers are there. Remember, the answers are there. All you need to do is listen. So, but one of the things we have to make sure that we don't do it, and I was horrible at this for years. Oh my God. When I realized what I was doing, I was like, man, I am so embarrassed. So, and one of the reasons why I quit going to the doctor, now I do have to go back, but to the point though, I'd realized that the system had turned me into a victim, and I allowed the system to turn me into a victim. So once a month, how you doing? What's your pain like? Da 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 da. Oh, so you go to the doctor, and in so many words, you're the victim of your illness or whatever thing is wrong with you, right? So, and I've had a lot of bad crap happen to me. I mean, my spine's messed up, and I got a scar right there. They went in 3 times and still didn't fix it. But to the point, though. In that there are negative energies, and you become the victim because you're asked, how are you doing? And well, if you want us to continue to give you these pain pills, then you must be doing pretty freaking bad. Otherwise we can't give them to you. You know what I mean? So you have to play the victim in order to get what you feel you need. Now, I want to go back to the doctor because it's been going on 4 years. and I've got pain levels that I haven't had in a long time, and I would like a little help. Now, before I realized I was just taking way too many, but I would like to be able to have some sure enough pain pills for, I did some weed eating the other day and I'm sore. Oh my God. And I'm sorry, but ibuprofen just ain't working. I've aggravated an old condition, but I had fun, and I might go outside tomorrow and weed eat some more. Who knows? And then I'll really be sore on Monday, but that's the way it goes. I'll have fun in the process. But in still working with this, you say, well, what's this got to do with shadow work? Until we do it, it's in the shadows. Okay. Until we go to the store, it's just a thought. Okay. So I can look at the dog and go, hey, let's go to the store and get some dog food. And he goes, yeah, okay. But until we get in the truck, until we start that journey, it's just a thought. It's just something in the darkness, if you will. And it's not really dark. It's just that it's out there. It's in the universe. So, but then when you when you say, okay, put your shoes on, he wags his tail, I put my shirt on, he wags his tail, and I go, come on, let's go get in the truck. Ooh, waggy, 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 so these things lead up to the event. But until you do them, it's still it's still just a thought. It's still just out there in space. But as you act upon these things, then you set things in motion. So with working in the darkness with future events, we need to be careful that that what we're working on doesn't necessarily spawn a negative, but that we buy into it, encourage it. Well, if this is the way it's going to be, we're all in trouble. We'll all be in FEMA camps in 6 months. We need to stay out of that, okay? Because most of us understand it, but why should we talk about it, speak about it, and worry about it? Not that it can't happen, just saying, but we just can't go there, and we shouldn't go there. And if other people are encouraging that kind of talk, we need to calm them down, because the more we would speak it, the more, because of our projection and this timeless idea of consciousness, we could actually speak it into being. And I would rather not do that. You know what I mean? I don't think anybody here would want to do that. And even, you know what I mean? But here's the trick. This quantum reality is so attached to each and every one of us. As that doctor said on the X-File thing, or the Dark Journalist. Crap, you said his name, Michelle, and I didn't write it down. But anyway, but the idea, though, that when you really start to understand it and you allow it to happen without freaking you out, then you say, wait a minute, I see where this is going, because just, well, I wonder what's going to happen. That puts stuff out in the universe that, well, I don't know, there could be this, and it could be this scenario. And so now you're like offering the universe these choices, when what we'd like is to have humanity stay, calm about this, let the system work, let things go the way they need to go. But to the point, whatever does come out, we all deal with it like adults. But at the same time, we don't let these people get away with it. Now, we'll see what happens. So we have drawn the line in the sand, in that the sand, our limits, is our protection around us. And if I go to the river, I'm taking that protection with me. When I get back to the house, I still got the protection with me, So it's not a static point in the universe, yeah, my line is actually this circle I'm standing in. It's my protection. So If you think the wolves are at the door, if you think that out of that darkness there are nasty things that are coming at you, they could be. Okay, let's be straight up. But here's the thing. If you know you've got your spirit, you've got, before you go into a meditation, you make sure that your campfire's going. You know what I mean? To keep the wolves and the coyotes away, right? And the skunks. Woke up with a skunk in the camp, like right outside the tent one time. And it was like, don't say anything, don't piss him off, or go, oh my God, to have that. And his butt was pointed into the tent, and one of those little pup tents from the old days anyway, old canvas tent. But it was actually World War II and Korean War Army surplus that we had. But anyway, they were good tents. But the idea, though, that our protection goes with us. So keep your internal light going. There's lots of stuff out there that wants to quench that light. And in our future darkness, there are answers out there. But there are also some folks who are, I can tell you what I'm going to do in the next couple of days, because this is my world down here. I'm retired, I know what's going to happen, roughly. Me and the dog are going to go back to town. We're going to get some more dog food. I'm going to get a couple of supplies, another gallon of milk, blah, blah, blah. And so I know that's coming. So I see that in my future events. What day it is? Will it be raining? Will there be a nuclear attack before then? Don't know. I really don't. But it doesn't matter, because I know I'm going to go to the store with the dog. I know this is a silly comparison, but to that, though, I don't know what these other folks are going to do. So if I put my energy out there that I'm afraid and I'm scared and, and we're all going to die, of course we're all going to die. But, a slow, painful death, yeah. But anyway, we need to keep ourselves in our own, not a bubble, in that we aren't aware of things around us, but yes, we are in our protective bubble, absolutely. So, but, while we're in our bubble, we can't go, well, I'm just in my bubble, to hell with everything. Can't do that. No. Times right now are so strange. And for, like I said, physical and mental and spiritual and whatever else too, cosmically speaking, what's going on right now. I mean, there are people in England that are more worried about what's happened over here than some of us are. The folks in Canada are as worried, or if not more, than some Americans are. So you go, wait a minute. So it isn't just you and me, here. It's a lot of people in a lot of places all over the place. So we need to give that prayer, give that thought to humanity. And it's simply, I wish to give a boost of energy to the humanity. We're going to handle this one way or the other. So, but if our energy is drained and our brains and our psyches are gone, then, we're going to get caught up in the trappings. And there are a lot of folks in a lot of different areas that I've been checking on the last couple of days, in that there are many different levels of this being played out. And there are a lot of people, not necessarily on the other side, but some folks are going, this just isn't right. Trump was ahead and I didn't really vote. I voted for Biden, but where'd that 130,000 votes come from? So anyway, so in this darkness, there is light to both sides. So what we project for what we want in the future, let's just say, we want the truth. For most of us, we'd like to see Trump come out of this as the winner, because it looked like he was, for a long time till they messed with things. But with that said, though, most of us just want the basic, simple truth, and that it was accurate and above board. Well, let's keep it clean. So if it was clean and that's what it turns out to be, okie dokie. But until such time, I don't think any of us should give up, because they pulled the wool over our eyes too many times, wagged the dog issues. We can't let it happen again. We just can't. We shouldn't. Now, but that line in the sand should be our protective bubble. Now, what do we do about these things that are going to come out of the darkness into our consciousness? Because we are all connected in this. So as we progress spiritually and with our timeless consciousness, past and future, because present's only for an instant. So you would say, well, it exists in the present. There is no present, because as I'm speaking, it's becoming part of the past. So you have to understand it's either past or future. There is no present situation in this, but it is timeless consciousness. So we start trying to remember some of our unconscious things that may be bugging us, and we go, oh, there's something back in here that was recorded. All right, I see you there. Now, cut it out. I don't want to be affected by you anymore. We're putting you up there in the box on that shelf up there. We can't get rid of the memories, but we can damn sure put them up. Okay? When we learn how to do that and keep the emotions out, then that allows us to be stronger spiritually. So those things that we don't really understand that are coming at us out of the darkness, not necessarily bad, but because we don't see what they are yet, they're still to be spoken into existence, right? So we can't be scared about it. Because if you go outside, and I've done this, and down in the woods, turn all the lights off and everything. So you're in the darkness. So when your eyes get adjusted, the stars are brighter if it's not cloudy. And there's sort of a really strange kind of light. Just even in the darkness, there's sort of this light. Now, I've been in caves, many caves, many miles under the earth, and some caves that a lot of people don't even know exist to this day, near here. So, but when you're down under the ground and you turn off the light, it is total, absolute darkness. And when you do that, the darkness speaks to you. I mean, it's just like, what? To have the lights off for a couple of minutes in a cave is just eerie. I mean, it's like, somebody turn on a light. Oh, no, we're okay. No, turn on a light. It gets creepy. And you turn on the light, and all of a sudden you're safe again. Now, there ain't nothing down there, at least, with or without the light on. But having been down in the caves 11 or 12 times, in Climax caves, the folks that I've been down there with, or who have been in caves before, I said, you ever just turned out the lights? Yeah. And what do you feel? You feel the darkness close in on you. And it's like, it's a really creepy feeling, right? So, but here's the thing. When you, as part of my training as a shaman, you learn to accept that darkness as not an evil thing, but because we're not used to it, our awareness, when the lights go out, our awarenesses just kind of shoot out around us, and it feels like the darkness is closing in. When actually, is there anything evil there? No. Did you feel anything when the lights were on? No. But once you turn that light off for a couple of minutes, all of a sudden the creepies come in. When you realize it's just darkness, but it's dark, yeah, okay. But I'm in a cave. But it's just dark. You got a flashlight. Everybody's got a flashlight. You got a headlamp on. It's just off. But it's dark. There is sort of a panic that will set in. Well, will my flashlight come back on? I always carried 2 or 3 flashlights and extra batteries and a bulb too. We lost a bulb one time, and well, that was weird. But anyway, and when you're a mile underground in a cave that you got to crawl through holes this big around, you do not want to lose a flash. I mean, you have your lamp go out. But anyway, so the idea that what do? You learn to accept it for what it is. It's darkness. Well, could something come out of the darkness? Maybe, but it's our fears that we project into the darkness of what we may see. So doing our shadow work for the future, we must be careful that we do not project a negative entity out there so that it will manifest itself. Well, it feels evil. Wait a minute, are you just scared of the dark? And I mean that literally, because if you haven't had this circumstance to be able to feel what it's like to be in total darkness, and like live there and be okay with it. Now, being in a closet with the lights turned out at night or something, you could get a similar feeling, but not necessarily. But I've done that in the closets or whatever, and it's strange, but it's not like being in a cave. I'm just saying, similar but not. And I think it's because of the fear factor of the lights are out. You're in a cave. You're underground. If you're in a closet with the door shut kind of thing, and it's dark, you're in a closet. So there's nothing really, there's not that fear factor that is brought into the picture. You know what I mean? So when doing our future work, we've already dealt with the past now. So if something up, in the past comes up, we have our little, conversation with the, the head of the class, and go, okay, all right, let's referee whatever this issue is from our past and put it up. Now, what about this future stuff? Well, we don't know. Many of us have a feeling, but I know a part of me is trying to project what could happen. And, I'm like, oh, holy Jesus, God, word, fuck now. That was my initial reaction, I think, as many of us did, or maybe still have. And there are people giving up left and right. And I'm like, no, don't you remember the 2000 elections? I do. Let this play out, because it needs to. This is our system. Nobody should give in to anything. It should go the way it needs to go, because that's how we deal with this kind of thing. From a practical standpoint, not who's right or wrong. No, when there are issues, this is how the country is supposed to follow procedure. And I think we should follow procedure, period. As to the outcome, we'll wait to see the results. But to the point, though, should we give up? No, we should follow procedures. And in that, though, the procedures are, well, what if this happens? And what if you got to stay out of that frame of mind, because then we're going to be projecting what might happen on a future event that might not actually happen because these other things are still in the works. So I've been talking with folks and they want to do this and that. And I've been telling folks, you just need to don't make any in particular changes right now. The next few months till maybe February next year, you just need to we just need to kind of hunker down and just wait things out. There is a certain amount of time that just needs to go by, because there's going to be all this confusion. And so what we may think can be in our future, well, now, if you want to go see grandma for Thanksgiving, by all means go. There are some states that say that, only so many family members, and that the family members in their house, mind you, have to stay 6 feet apart from each other. That's impossible in my house. But, and that, you must wear the mask at all times, except in between, you can pull your mask down to have some turkey, but then you got to put it up while you're chewing. Are you serious? And that we should forego Thanksgiving. Now, in particular, I don't have anybody anywhere nearby, and I'm not into much traveling on my own. So I usually spend Thanksgiving by myself. Well, now I'll have the dog. But with that said, though, the idea of somebody invited me over, or if they wanted to come over here and we do Thanksgiving, whatever. I used to grill turkeys out on the grill. Boy, the smoked turkeys, yeah, 24 hours to smoke them, yeah. But the idea, though, that we have to skip this in our own homes with our own families, and that people are going to, and you have to write down everybody that comes in to your house and how to get in touch with them. So, Uncle Bob came by. Yeah, well, we need his telephone number and his address in case he gets sick, But wait a minute, you're the host. You invited somebody over for tea and coffee after Thanksgiving dinner. Well, wait. All right, Bob and Linda, you got to write your names down, to come in the house. Sorry, government order. We have to know who's in the house and who's partying with us, and if we exceed the maximum, have you got your mask on, That's Orwellian. And we got to say, So with that, we can all automatically say, nah, I do not consent to that frame of mind. Absolutely not. I'll take my chances with whatever disease, and if it kills me, I've had a good run. But to this idea, though, that we should bow down to it, should we commit to it? Should we put our thoughts forward in, oh my God, this is coming? Let's stay out of that. Because until we know for sure, let's not bring it into our reality. Okay. Now, that's an example, but with other trials and tribulations in our life, our future events, I used to do this, so I'm guilty, but I used to worry about, what if situation, and realize when the time came, it was nowhere near what I was anticipating what it was going to be. It's like well, we got a test on Friday. I hate tests, right? Oh, holy shit. What have I got? Well, just study chapter 10. Okay. Well, what in chapter 10? And I would agonize it the whole week, until the test came. And and sometimes I would just look down and go, I worried about this for a week. I know this, blah, 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 and go, crap, that was easy, Oh, I got 2 wrong out of 20. Well, all right, that's 90% or something like that. Okay. But the idea, though, that I would try to anticipate what it was. So my anxiety level would go up and my blood pressure, and I would give myself ulcers all the time. If I didn't have an ulcer going on, I didn't feel right, But that's where the wisdom of the universe comes in. Hey, look, we can spend 5 minutes feeling like that, but the wisdom says we can't keep this up. So what about our future events, personally and worldwide? We say a prayer for humanity, that we continue to be uplifted, regardless of what these other folk are doing. We know they're bad apples. Okay. We know that they're folks who want to kill us all. Okay. We understand this, but in our cosmic connection up here, in the past events that have already happened and with future events, we can keep people calm without them going off the rail with their own thoughts, and that this is what's going to happen. Not necessarily. Well, but this is going to happen because of this. Hang on. Well, let's give it a chance here, But if you are insisting that that's what's going to happen, then you're going to manifest that future. What, not just political, mind you, but in anything that you do. So if you're worried about the bad situation, you'll make it happen. Inevitably, one way or the other. So you know that there's an event like the rent's coming due and you don't have quite enough money and the kids need a pair of shoes. I mean, this used to happen all the time. So I would say, oh God, how am I going to pay the bills? Don't know. Okay. So the change was, I do a lot of odd jobs for people back in the day. So what I need is somebody that needs some work done, so rather than worry about how I was going to pray for it, I would quote worry more or pray more on the fact that I need somebody to give me, they need their lawn mowed or they need some painting. I need a side job. And a lot of times that would come true. So I ended up paying, the rent or whatever it was, sometimes a day or two late, but it got paid. I'm still here on this place because I, made a commitment. But with that said, though, my future thoughts that were in the darkness was that regardless of what came out of the darkness at me, I was going to have this house. I was going to pay for this. I would be here now. Now, I was hoping the house would be a little bit more finished than it is, but I am here. The house is here. It is paid off. And, all I got to do is pay the taxes. But the idea, though, that in that forward thinking, I concentrated as much as I could on the good things that I wanted to do here. At one time we had a camp down on the river, and at one time the river used to flow, and we used to do canoeing up and down my little river in the back. It was a lot of fun. But then the hurricane came and trees, crossed the river, and now you can't even get through it. And we haven't had enough rain for the river to flow much. And, things have changed. So much for the camp, right? Well, the whole reason was to go down by the river. Now it's just a mud hole. Welcome to the little Ocklawakanee mud hole, But in that, though, could I have foreseen that in the past? No. No. So, but I still work towards having the camp on the river. I mean, there are still, things down there that still make the camp, but, the trails aren't cleared. I'm hoping to spend some time this winter and, with the new chainsaw setup I got, be able to cut some of these trees out of the way so I can get back to the camp. But anyway, so I'm even after, this couple of years from the hurricane, I still have intentions of opening up the trail and being able to go down to the campsite easy and that kind of thing. So I still have a positive forward thought, although in my darkness are all these great big trees I got to cut up to get through. Anyway, so the demons, the future. So my demons for the future, for the back 20, are that I have to cut a bunch of trees to get back there again. But if I look at it as, oh my God, I got, then it becomes a demon. And I manifest it into the present. You know what I mean? So we have to be careful of that. And so it isn't just about the politics or who's going to be this or whatever. But I mean, it's a lot of our own personal events and how we react to them. And whether or not we put forth anything that, oh my God, what, I might get a flat tire. Oh, don't go there, So our past and our future, because of timeless consciousness. And remember, our subconscious is constantly recording. So we learn to merge them. We learn to accept the things our brains have recorded, whether in sleep time or not. We try to become more understanding of the universe and go, you know what? I might be picking up with my, psychic antennas, some of the rest of the world's confusion and heartache right now. We're all feeling it. So the answer out of that is to, okay, I can see it sort of in people's reactions, which means I can feel it just almost physically because I can see how people are physically reacting. I react physically to it, right? But also in the spirituality and of the mentalness of it, they want to drive us mad. And I say no. I'm going to, say right now, I do not comply. You can try to make me crazy. Been there, done that. They, tied me up and put me in a, crazy house. No, I'm out now. Been out for a while. Ain't going back. Now, so I can say my line in the sand is by saying I do not comply. That's it. And will there be a rebellion? There has to be. Okay. How bad is it going to be? Let's have good thoughts that people will have an understanding and that they will accept the truth, whether one way or the other, and that as human beings we'll get through this. I mean, we made it through the Clinton years. We made it through 8 years of Bush and Cheney. Oh my God. We made it through 8 years with Obama and what's his name, and we're still here. A lot of weird things happen. Went to war a couple times in between and stuff, but at the moment things are calm. Let's hope that we can maintain that, and that folks won't go off the deep end. So we got positive things we can put to the universe. But if we worry about all the bad things that could happen, let's not give the universe that energy. You know what I mean? So I have yacked on now here for an hour and 36 minutes. Mossy Man, how are you, ladies? You talk too much for Bob, Mossy. Time out. Can you get me David's email? Yeah, I put it in there before, Mossy Man, but Brian says we can and absolutely will move through this, and we will do it with class. We have been here before. We have been hurt. I got you. I knew Ben Hur in a previous life. Anyway, Brian, maybe you got that old Roman joke. But anyway, yeah, Rusty Bed Springs by IP Nightly. Anyway, in this realm of things, though, there are too many of us, even the ones that are on the other, that are on the other side and have been blindsided. If certain things take place, I think they're going to go, wait a minute, hang on. I thought things were getting better. What do you mean we got to do this now? What do you mean I got to do that? What do you mean you want to give me a shot? What do you mean I can't go there? What do you mean Christmas is canceled? What do you mean Easter is canceled? What do you mean I can't go to church anymore? Folks are going to go, well, hang on, regardless of what side of the aisle they're on, they're going to look at it and go, I don't think I signed up for this, But there are those folks who are out there right now, but it's for the better good of mankind. And you got to look at them and going, what planet are you from? Do you live around here? Because the people I live around with, Al, have common sense. Now, I had this little, I guess it was sort of a slight dream state earlier today and looking at the news and stuff and thinking about how people actually are around here and how most of the times things are level-headed, but they got their gun under the seat or, hanging in the back window of the pickup truck. But that, if certain powers that be think that everybody is just going to comply because they said so, the South will rise again. And it won't be just in southern states, but the South is going to rise again, and there will be rebels are going to show themselves, and it ain't going to be about guns, but folks are going to say, nope, sorry. Um, in the video I think I did the other night, maybe I didn't. No, I didn't actually. My friends came by the other night, and the 11-year-old is telling me that the kids in school, they were teachers were trying to keep them all 6 feet apart. And the kids are going, no, none of us are sick. No little kids have died. Our likelihood of getting sick are, all these kids, 10, 11 years, 12 years old, know what the statistics are because they all have computers now. And so the idea that they all have to be 6 foot apart, she goes, that we just ain't doing it. And, they insist on us wearing our masks, and we're going, we just ain't going to do it. So there's the kids, and they say, well, what's the teacher going to do about it? Send a note home to mom, your kids are getting too close together, and mom's in agreement. She goes like, they're kids, they're in school, but anyway. So this idea that we're somehow just going to go along with this on so many levels, they're going to be in for a big surprise if they decide to try to do that. And I think it's wonderful in that the awareness seemed to be more hyper in the younger kids than in teenagers or, young adults these days. They seem to be unplugged from stuff, but their younger brothers, sisters, and cousins seem to be a lot more aware. Maybe those are the star children, you know what I mean? But anyway, in this, we all have a connection to the timeless consciousness. So I'm always saying to the universe, accept and receive the gifts from and the whole point is that with this remote viewing, okay, it exists so that you learn how to project your thoughts to a place and observe what's there. So in doing so, you're not interfering with any time. You're just observing the consciousness that's already there. And because it's past, for example, you go to a place. And so because it's been there and without some, sure enough act of God, that it's going to be there in the future, at least the near future, So it's a place, it's a mountaintop, it's a stream, it's something that you. So for me, when I was in jail, I would project my thoughts back to the house on the farm up here in Georgia where I was staying. And I could hear the hog feeders at night down the hill because they'd made this clanking noise. And so I could hear that clanking noise like it was right outside my cell door. And I was home, and it saved me from lockup because that's what gave me peace of mind. So with that, but because I was in Tampa in jail, and this was back up in Brooks County in Georgia, they both existed at the same time. But what was different was me and my location. But the consciousness of where I lived, the fact that hogs were still feeding on the farm, that awareness was actually true at the same time. So all I had to do was think about it and connect through the timeless consciousness to the quantum, and I could hear the hogs. I could hear the feeders. I could smell the country air versus, the prison. So this idea that, we're alone or that we're not part of anything, when you start to really grasp what's going on this quantum level, accepting it does exist. Now, how you reach it, how you react to it, that's our journey in life. That's why we're here, is to learn how to navigate this and to try to have fun along the way, to bring joy into our lives, to try to bring joy into other people's lives. And, not necessarily be, a witless dunce, because what are you going to learn about that? And there are a lot of folks that we probably know a few, um, not necessarily here, but, within our lives, that it's all about money, and it's all about the shoes, it's all about the Instagram, it's all about the hashtags, it's all about, and I scratch my head and go, I'm you're one of those folks I'm praying for, because it just seems like you ain't got a clue. And it could be, but I still wish to uplift humanity, regardless of who or what they think. I still think the prayer to uplift humanity is a good idea. So, up to you, but send those well wishes out to the universe. Now, there are some folks who are trying to say that we shouldn't be doing that kind of things. We should just be keeping them thoughts to ourselves. To hell with the rest of mankind. We should, no, no. As mankind, as we progress, if any of us understand it, this is part of that event, if you will, that was Cobra talked about years ago. This is part of that event. How are we going to handle this spiritually? Are we going to let the darkness of our past, which brings up fear, so that fear from our past, if we haven't dealt with it, will affect what we think is coming at us in the future? Now, some of it could be, but if we all continue to work on it and go, I don't want to manifest a bad future. And for many of us years ago, not too far from here, are two FEMA camps, actually three, but one's more of an underground facility in Thomasville, and it is there. But that did what they claim was going to happen 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago? No, that did not manifest. And I think it didn't manifest because there was enough of us who said, nah, I ain't going. So the fact that the awareness got out enough to where their plans to do it were like, well, this ain't going to go. We're just going to have a shit on our hands if we try this mess. And, well, so could they still try it? Yeah. Could things? Yeah. Would they still do? Yeah. But here's the thing. I do not consent. And I think that's just the answer. Shoot me, kill me, okie dokie, but I don't consent, and I'm going to stay in my, I don't want to say stay in my little world, but it's sort of the way it is. Now, here's what I would suggest, at least for the short term, the next couple of months. You stick with family and friends. You keep some of your comments in chat room. Well, I think, for example, for me, I'd want to, Biden stole the election. Biden, blah, 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 blah. He did this, and he's still a crook, and blah, blah. That's what I want to. Those are things that I would like to say and print, but I can't do it. Why? Because the other, hi Bob, we love you, but Bob's cousins out there watching for our reaction. This is a test, a really big test for humanity, for AI. So if those of us overreact, over respond, and it gets fed into the system. But now, if we just say, I see you, here's my opinion, 5 minutes or less, and I ain't saying nothing. You think your friends and family are working. Well, I don't necessarily mean your kin, okay? I have friends of mine that are my family now, where none of my, very few of my family actually They are sneaky pubbers throwing under. Yeah, I understand. If you have no fear of Bob and his cousins, Monster Man, it doesn't matter because it's not that I have fear of it. It's this that I know if I type these things into the system, that it becomes part of their, um, they can derive something from my response. So I can think it and they can't have it. I can have a discussion with it. Okay, now they're hearing me. Algorithm, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Parts of my family are toxic too. Project Skyfalls. So, but I have friends, and that is my family. But anyway, my dog's my family. But um, family has surely changed in its terms, right? Um, Cobra Kai. Michelle Cobra was this guy several years ago about the event is coming soon, and there's these aliens are doing this, and there's quantum stuff going on, and then just that kind of stuff, it just sort of disappeared. Well, Cobra's supposedly still out there working for the Galactic Council or something or whatever. So, but anyway, but to my point though, in that a lot of that stuff didn't transpire either. So we listened to them. A lot of us got on board with it, and I'm all for, hey, now one thing it did do for a lot of us was whether or not the event actually happened, whatever the event was, it made a lot of us aware that there are future events that if we didn't pay attention, were going to happen, could have happened, and we need to be at least be more observant and stay more connected in this quantum reality, right? Understand that we are members of the League of Like-Minded Beings, period. Get that through to those folks out there. Get that through your thick skulls. You're already a part of it. Just, we don't have to baptize you. You've already been through your shit. You were born. That was your baptism, And here's another thing, just to kind of toss this in there. If anybody's made it to this mark in the conversation, but in my spiritualness of talking about things, I don't bring up Jesus. Okay. I speak of the Christ consciousness. And I think there are some folks out there who think that because I'm against the church and the Bible and stuff like that, and not against the Bible, but, I think people put too much faith in a book that was written by man. Well, it was inspired by God. I'm being inspired by God right now, but that don't make me a saint. It doesn't make me, I'm just saying. And I've read some of the stuff that I wrote down years ago I read it now, I was like, damn, that was profound. No, that was a good job. When did you write this down? So anyway, but the Jesus Christ that we are to understand, I believe in that. Okay, I believe in the Christ consciousness. As much of that story can be validated or true. Okay. Now, but I also believe that the Christ consciousness was here before and has been here on this earth since Christ died on the cross. Okay. And that this Christ consciousness is sort of like the Buddha consciousness. I know Christians don't want to hear this, but there are folks who seem to think that like I'm against Christ or I'm against Jesus. No, I'm against the rules that the church and the Bible has established to put on the character Jesus. That when he told Peter, upon you I build my church, you are the rock. I don't think he meant to build cathedrals around the world that didn't do anything. Jesus preached outside in the open to all people. in nature. And and Jesus was all about sharing the idea that the church would collect money from poor little old ladies and poor families, make them tithe and give to the church and all this other stuff. And when actually those were the people that were suffering. Don't think that's what Jesus had in mind. So now, what's this got to do with doing shadow work? Because there are people who need to understand. There are a lot of religious type spiritual leaders that didn't have anything to do with a book or a following, but their truths, their opinions, philosophers and some of the Greeks and things, at me, my job in this realm right now is a shaman, as a messenger. So, but am I some great martyr? No, no, I don't consider, but I am a messenger. That's sort of obvious. But in that's all the credit I'm going to take for that, because I'm simply a messenger. But that I would not love Jesus or think that, that do I think Jesus is the only way to heaven? No, he's one of the ways, but he's not the only way. Because in the Catholic Church, only Catholics are going to heaven. All you Protestants and Methodists and Baptists, y'all ain't going from the Catholics' point of view. So you need to check that at the door, you know what I mean? So I could never go along with that when I was going to Catholic Church, and to this day. So the idea that the Catholic Church is the one and only church that God ordained and that everybody else is going to hell. Nope. I cannot ascribe to that. So in this, a lot of this is man-made. It's their opinions of what Jesus would want. And I got to say, are you serious? So, I don't believe in the construct of Jesus and the following of the church and the going into ain't there. But do I feel that entity was here and was a positive force on, as far as, history and this? Absolutely. Yes. So, but there are a lot of folks that are going to go, well, I just can't understand it. You can't have Jesus without the Bible. Yeah, you can. Jesus was trying to get out of the Old Testament, trying to show a new way. That's the New Testament. So if he was trying to preach old stuff, he'd have been in the temple, right? He'd been anyway. So in our spiritualness of working in the darkness, I think one of the things that people must overcome is the fact that, listen, there were really great spiritual leaders before Jesus and after him. Oh, but no, it's not really that, far, a far-flung idea. Why not? If he says that life is eternal, then he's been here before. And if he told everybody that he was coming back, then wait a minute. So what's to say he hasn't been back? We didn't know because the church said, nah, we can't let this guy say he's come back. Oh, hell no. Just saying. So it's the church and the religions about which have sprung up around him. I do not give them credence. Do not give them credit. But to the holy men and women, Joan of Arc, other, Madame Curie, these people that have come up with cures for mankind. In what they have done, they were holy people. They were studying, and who was the nurse in the French thing, that went around and and helped all the soldiers, I think, during the First World War. Anyway, but the idea, though, that each one of us can just be good people. And in that, we carry that Christ consciousness, that one law, that we are all that we are all connected, and that worldly wisdom, all that stuff. So, but anyway, I know I got off on a tangent, but that for a lot of people is going to be some dark areas that they're going to have to work on, because the things that are being shown now and things that are going to come out still from the Vatican, they're dropping hints all the time, right? And telling flat out truths. But that as these things continue to come out, some people are going to be floored. They're going to go, no, I can't accept that. I don't accept that. Can't be possible. Well, when the bottom line is going to be, but it's true. But it can't be true. But it is. But you all, like I've said before, I grew up as a Catholic, and eating meat on Fridays was a sin. It was a venial sin, but still a sin. So then as a little kid, and, and a lot of us little kids, especially those of us who grew up around the carnival and stuff, there wasn't anything fishy related that we could eat on a Friday. When we were working on the carnival, there were hamburgers and hot dogs and corn dogs and this thing. There wasn't, there were fish sticks. So we either had to, a lot of cheese sandwiches, to say, I want a hamburger without the hamburger. What? Yeah, I want a cheeseburger, but leave off the burger. Put a little grease on it so it'll have some flavor. But the idea, though, that then all of a sudden it wasn't a sin. The Pope went, okay, everybody, you're absolved of previous sins. It's no longer a sin. You can volunteer if you want to, but, So, but here's the idea, though. So for all those years, all those people that gave it up and who fasted on Fridays and who had to go to the priest and confess that they ate meat on Friday. And now all of a sudden it doesn't exist anymore. So the construct of sin, the construct of what men and churches want to force us to believe that, well, because they've got this banner of Jesus and they've got him on the cross, then they must be talking truth, when actually it's all fabricated. It's what they want. It's what the church wants. It's the doctrine of the church. Jesus did not want to be worshiped. But in all these churches you see, come and worship with us on Sunday. No, that is not what Jesus wanted. Nope. Give honor to the father and the mother, Yep. So, but in the darkness with our shadow work, there are going to be people who are going to have to overcome that and go, wait a minute. He was a great man. He did influence society. But there's a higher picture to this. He wasn't the only one, but he is the true way, meaning that if you follow the rule of one, that do no harm, you're going to be good in the universe. You will be given a seat at the right hand of God, kind of thing, in that you will be accepted into the universe. Well, you'll probably be accepted anyway, but the idea, though, that to become more of a part of it before you die, the purgatory is learning how to be a spiritual being again. If we start awakening these things before we pass, then it's going to be easier when we get to the other side, So what's the journey in this life? Where are those shadows? And I know that I have created evil type beings in the shadows because of my fear of previous things that have happened to me. I projected them into the darkness, into the silence. But here's the thing. The questions that I wanted answered in that silence, those weren't questions. I was bringing a fear, anticipating an answer. What? Yep. So there really wasn't an answer until I came up with this really strange creature in my head. Does this creature exist? And the answer was yes, in your head. What? Yes, that creature exists because you have manifested it. Me? Yes, you, Dave. You manifested that being because of fears that you had. And those fears were being reflected from the future darkness into my quote present. And I was like, oh, holy crap. Now, again, there is stuff out there, but when I realized that I was doing it, part of this, you got to stop, right? You have to say, oh man, this is not what I wanted out of this. So we look for the future with a certain amount of anticipation in that, hopefully it will bring us nice and wonderful things that, and let's just hope it doesn't bring us crap, right? So what's the future going to bring for us? Not crap. Well, what do you mean by that, Hawkeye? I mean, future is going to be what it is, but it's not going to be crappy. It may be tough, it may be, but it's not going to be dinosaur shit, unless we can turn it into oil. Of course, we're all going to have wind turbines, and I've already got some solar collect panels. So, and I've already dug a well and I got a bucket. So, if they make us turn anyway. So I've got a contingency plan, have had a contingency plan. It was my homesteading plan from 40 years ago. So I'm still in my element in that. Other people, no. So their paradigm, their future is going to be different from mine because I dealt with what I thought would be future conditions 40 years ago. So I've got a passive solar house. I got this, so I've got stored water. I'm good unless somebody comes down here to mess with me. So I have looked into the future and said, well, there could be events. So I'm going to do my best to try to, in case that happens, I got it covered one way or the other, whether through experience or something, I got it covered. So that's how we deal with future events that we're not quite sure of. Well, the lights might go out. Yeah, well, over the years, the lights have gone out a bunch of times, sometimes for a week, when Hurricane Kate came through back in 84, 5, kind of, I think it was 85. In November, 2 days before Thanksgiving, it shut down South Georgia. It was as bad, maybe not worse than Michael was a couple of years ago, but it was bad. There were trees down everywhere. We didn't have electricity for 4 days. And nobody got to have Thanksgiving because nobody could get anywhere and the lights were out. And it was cold. Can stuff happen? Yeah. And will it again? Yeah. So we just become as prepared as possible. Now, for them damn folks down there on the Gulf Coast that keep getting hammered with hurricanes, and go, well, we're gonna rebuild. No, you dumbass, move. Sorry, I'm just, I know you like it down there, but every few years somebody's getting washed out. Move. I know you like it down there. My daughter's down there. Other folks that I know are down there. I'm sorry, if you're going to keep getting washed off the map, don't you think God's trying to tell you something? Just this is a warning. Okay, but I'm going to go back. I'm going to move back into the house. Okay. Just saying. So, we see these things in our future, but what do we do about them? Do we do anything concrete? Do we just live in fear of what our past tells us? Do we conjure up the evil that may come at us until the point that we turn it into a reality? That's where I say that we all need to be cautious right now. A lot of other people that I respect, other folks that not so much, not that I don't respect them, but I mean, their point of view has been like, yeah, okay, we'll listen. But so many different levels of folks have come out within just the last few days and said, we need to stay calm, and I agree. I agree. But I want to go outside and bang my, the garbage can, and, I want to throw rocks at my neighbor across the street because he had a Biden sign. Okay. The only one in the neighborhood for miles that I know of. And even his brothers were voting, had Trump signs. So, but anyway, in that though, we just can't do that. But we need to look forward with as much of a positive attitude. And again, we've talked about the dark side of things. Understand that we can see that there could be a reflection out there in that darkness in the future. Let's keep an eye on it. We can manifest around it. Maybe parts of that thing do come true, but enough of us see it to where, did the FEMA camps come true 8 years ago, 10 years ago? No. Could they? Well, anything's possible, right? But to the point though, so if enough of us become aware of it without being pissed off, we stay in communication with each other. We keep certain things out of the, we need to learn how to speak in code. Okay, this came up earlier. In that if we write down in what we really think, then it becomes a part of the AI that's going to extrapolate that information, right? To use for whatever their purpose is. But if we speak in enough code to where the other side's going, it's sort of like a bunch of emoticons in a row, and you go, what do they mean? Oh, well, there's a heart and a this and a that and an axe and a severed head, and what were they talking about? They want to stab him in the heart and cut off this, okay. But in that though, we know what we're talking about. We keep it out of the printed, we don't make comments on Facebook. Why? Because they're going to shut it down. They're watching to see. I want to put stuff on my Facebook page, and it's like, nope. Why? Because they're watching. So if I talk too much about, well, this and that and this and this and that, even though I see it, what's going on, if I type it in these comments and type out some stuff, it becomes part of the test, their test. What is our reaction? So if we don't give them a reaction, the algorithm or whatever is going to screw them up. They're going to go, wait, we're expecting this, and it ain't going to happen. Like the poll numbers, right? Ooh, the polls have him ahead by, and that wasn't true. So what they're trying to put to us, what they think they're going to get out of us, they're going to spark enough of us into a row to where we're all going to, grab our, our banners and our pistolas and, and machetes. When in fact, we do have them and they're at the ready, but we just ain't going to say anything about it. We see it. We're going to talk among ourselves here, but I'm not putting out stuff on Facebook. I'm not typing anything that, because I don't want my remarks to become a part of their experiment. That's the deal. Okay. And that's how we beat the system. When we don't react to what they think, when we mess up their plans. What? But we thought they were gonna, and they didn't. But we did this, and we thought but we didn't. So, and then when they think, well, yeah, because we have done it in the past. So, in our remembering, in our darkest hours of looking in our souls, we look back at what these folks have done to us and go, wait a minute, they're trying to do this again. That's why a lot of us have this pit in our stomach. They've tried or succeeded with this before. And we are going, I don't think so. Whatever that internal thing is, we're connected to the the cosmic consciousness. It is forward and backwards, always there. It is timeless consciousness. And there is no duality. People say, well, you're awake, you're asleep. Yeah, but your subconscious would disagree with you on that. It's awake all the time. And what you need to understand is that it is. We are always connected to the universe. It's always there. We have the potential to ask any question. And with practice, that's the whole point of this. The practice is being able to hear it, understand it, and make sure that it's the truth. In that, well, I've checked this and that, and you'll know. Sometimes you may get information and you write it down and you're not quite sure what it is, but anyway. Lady Spitfire, if any man here shoots blanks, I'm just asking something that crosses my mind daily. It's a blessing that we are a paradox. Yes, Mossy Man. And here's the thing. When we understand that we are a paradox, then we can become even more of a paradox because we're aware of it, you know? So if, for example, the Back to the Future, or we go, forward in future, and then we come back and we meet ourselves kind of thing. Well, if we don't recognize ourselves, then it isn't a paradox, sort of, you know. And I had one of those incidents here on my place where years ago I saw an old man sitting on a stump, and I couldn't see his face, and it was like what. And then later on, a year or so ago, I had a dream that I was sitting on a log down in there, and I saw someone come up, and I realized that 15 years ago, when I had this vision of an old man sitting on a stump, the old man was me. So in that, there was a paradox. And then I noticed that as an old man, I saw the younger me coming out of the woods, and I was like, oh, holy shit, I was the old man that I saw in the future. Holy crap, So, but in that, so have we met ourselves, but we didn't know who it was? So in that paradox, now that I understand, I saw myself in both ways, kind of thing. That that the consciousness flows in both directions, but it doesn't actually flow. It just exists in both directions. If that's past and future, because the present. So I could pick a present moment anywhere along the timeless timeline of consciousness, because there is no time involved in it. You just pick a spot and go there. You pick a spot and go there. So, but you yourself, your entity, is in this present situation. But anyway, I know that's really crazy. So I've been at this 2 hours and 18 minutes. Mossy, go to Andromeda 7 portal channel and type a comment, Teresa. Then she can reply with an email. Message about that one explains. Someone who throws a big wad of fishing line in the lake time and time again ain't right. Yep. And they leave it there and all wadded up and all that kind of stuff. Yep. When I go down in the swamp, you'd be surprised at how many bobbers and pieces of line and stuff that are caught in trees and things that get swept downstream during the heavy rains. So, my friends, I hope that this has made a little bit of sense. There are situations that are going to come up that will present itself, and to some people, it will become their darkest hour. And if they allow it to be their darkest hour, if they accept it as their darkest hour, it will become their darkest hour. So we need to be careful. There are people I continue to pray for that are stuck in that for some reason every day they must do shadow work. And it's like, but wait a minute, I had some, 35, 40 years of crap, right? And I dealt with it pretty quick. And there are some things that will come up, but because I've been able to deal with the big things in my life and that darkness or whatever, now if something comes up, I go, okay, let's have a discussion. Let's look at this, from this side, that side, and from a neutral. And we're going to put it in the box and put it up. That's it, So there is no long, drawn out process now of the forgiveness of the this. No, you just recognize for what it is. You go, wow, that pissed me off, and I felt guilty about that. And okay, done with. And it's gone. Where before it took months to go through one subject in this, So in the learning of it and of the understanding of the universe, and you go, wow, this is really a lot easier than I thought before. And oh, wow, I've really made this a whole lot harder than it actually is. And, there are folks that, I'm seeing in comments and stuff that it's every day they're dealing with something evil in their life. And I'm just, not that they're not, but in that they're always talking about it and that they're always dealing with it. And I sometimes wonder if they're not manifesting it on their own. They're actually drawing this evil to them. And well, a certain person recently, and that, I somehow was, was trying to draw an evil entity to them, that I was pushing, some type of, no. But the thing is that if they're having a feeling that there is this evil or negative entity with them, it ain't here anymore, but it came with someone and it left with someone, and it had nothing to do with me. So, but with that said, though, these folks will believe it's somebody else's fault. So I'm the reason they have this negative entity attached to them. Maybe it's attached because you are like expecting it until you're allowing it. Well, no, I'm not. Well, then, but you had a negative entity over there, and you had a negative entity over there, and you had a negative entity over, and now you're saying you got a negative entity because somehow you were associated with me. No, pay attention. The negative entity is associated with you, and you need to deal, whatever it is, with that entity. But to place blame on other people, now, I did have people who were literally casting spells against me, and another friend of mine. Not the case. But in general, in life, we want to say, but that person is giving me negative thoughts, or this person is the reason why I can't do this. There may be some truth in it. But if you continue to believe it, well, I just can't, for a long time, I had this thing that I was jinxed. Well, I kept dropping stuff and I kept cutting myself, and, oh, you're a jinx. And it got to the point where I was like, I was afraid to do anything because I was going to get cut, so I always had Band-Aids and things. But the idea is, though, I created my own luck. So what I had not done in the past was to be aware that, and I was getting signals, don't put your hand there. Oh, and then something fall and smack your finger, or don't do this or something, and I would get, I got this, and being stubborn, But, I haven't had near the amount of accidents that I used to have as a, whatever it was before. But I was convinced that there was something following me around and knocking shit over and this and that has happened. But I was convinced. So I carried this convincing there's a poltergeist following me around. I was my own poltergeist. You know what I mean? I created the entity and it followed me because a cup fell over. Oh, this poltergeist of mine. You know what I'm saying? And then I realized, wait a minute, maybe I'm allowing this to happen because I'm blaming it. Maybe somehow it is me and I'm just not paying attention, or whatever it is that's going on, I'm manifesting in my subconscious because I have put it there. And even though I don't think about it outright, it's still there. So consciousness is timeless. So we said it 10 years ago, it's still in the brain. So unless we go, okay, we're not, you can't come in here and mess with me. We're putting you in the file cabinet. Yeah, you're still here, but no, we got you. So it can't sneak up and, and come out of the darkness and bite you. So my friends, I love you all, I do. And thank you for hanging out and participating. Life is paradoxical. It absolutely is, Michelle. And if we think it's crazy now, give it a couple more months. We'll see. Remember having dreams where you try waking yourself up but never could get yourself awake? Yes, that makes sense. What did those dreams mean? I've had that. I heard life is a highway. Yeah. I've had that exact same thought, Hawkeye, that perhaps we encounter our past, future selves and just don't recognize ourselves. Yes. And here's the thing. Here's the other paradoxical thing. What if it's one of us from a different timeline or, a parallel dimension? So it's like, in the other dimension, Dave don't have long hair, and his nickname ain't Hawkeye, but it's me. But, a lot of similarities, but it ain't. So if I was to, zip over across the line, as it were, into the parallel universe, I go, man, he don't look familiar to me because, he's wearing a suit and tie and doesn't live in, in a little shack down on the edge of the swamp. He lives in a house in the suburbs, and is still married with kids or something. Anyway, with a dog in a garage. Oh, God forbid. But anyway, I got a dog and I got a garage, so to speak. So, but anyway, I was thinking of suburbia. Oh, God forbid that. But anyway, so we wouldn't recognize ourselves. I know that's a little extreme, but in that though, but here's something else though. If consciousness is timeless, what's to say we haven't connected or that we don't connect or do, with a parallel universe of us? So if we're existing somehow in our consciousness on two different, parallel universes, then could myself now be having thoughts from that other dimension as we speak? Could that other dimension that's parallel to this one and that paradoxical me, could that be my spirit guide? Not necessarily my guardian angel per se, because I think there's a difference, in my opinion, for me, but my spirit guide, my conscious maybe, could be existing in this parallel universe at the same time. So I've learned to speak with him through that interdimensional space of the timeless consciousness. Isn't that interesting? And sometimes maybe when I'm having two or three voices in my head, or there's what if there's other dimensional me's in this paradox that are having similar thoughts at the same time? So they're as confused as hell in their world as I'm as confused as hell in this one. But we're all sharing the same consciousness in this timelessness. Isn't that just fascinating? But here's the thing. The more people are aware of that, at least up to a point, this does exist. It actually is a part. the science and the this, and those of us who have learned to practice this and the success that we've had with it, you say, oh my God, there's got to be some truth to this. Now, how much? It's up to us to experience it. And as we do, we understand, oh, holy crap, this stuff is real. So in all of my understandings and things over the years, as back in the late 60s and early 70s, it was using the power of the mind to be this extra sensory perception person. Now, over time, what did that power get me? You know? Well, I learned to read body language and to some ways anticipate people when I was working with them and so forth. And I learned how to not necessarily manipulate people, but manipulate a conversation in such a way as to be able to get a point across that maybe wasn't made before, or maybe bring something up that needed to be brought up when nobody else had the balls to do it. Many times I was that person, but I learned that, you can't just blurt it out. You have to slip it in. There's a politic about it, So, you really want this done, but you have to come in from the side, and then everybody goes, oh, what a great idea. And sometimes you go, hey, this is how we're going to do it. They go, not me. No, So it's all in the presentation, but that comes with the wisdom. So I had the wisdom all along because it was timeless, but it was my accepting of it. So the power is that understanding. The power is that, oh my God, I've done this in the past. I could see it coming in the future. So the power is, what do I do with my situation? So there are people who discuss the power of this or that. What do they mean by it? Are they out and what are they, quote, are they really, if they talk about manifesting, but can they manifest a lighter? Well, I have manifested this in my life. Well, they went out and okay, so they live in a bigger home and they got a better job. Well, that was because of their skills, and the fact that they, could you sit in a chair and manifest it all by yourself? Or did you have to do something in order for that manifestation to come true? So this manifestation is an idea that they brought forth. But there are times when life and the universe says, not now, or maybe not for you. And, I've talked about this before. I started a couple of businesses, and, my talents and everything, that was all good, but the situation sucked. So sometimes what we wish and what we want is not what the universe will allow us to do. So we have to make arrangements. We have to, we have to go with the flow. So, but anyway, the answers, though, and the wisdom was in the universe, because when I look back on the situation, I was sort of getting a warning. You might not want to do this. Yeah, but I'm a construction and I got all this, but you might not want to do it. But I didn't understand why at the time. Who knew that, 6 months to a year later, we had this Mexican influx of workers and all these people that were, contractors and so forth. They all went out of work, So we learn to work with the situation that it's given to us. And a lot of this stuff we don't have control over, but how we react and how we manifest what we want might not be the way we planned. So we just have to go, well, detour. Okay, I'm going to turn left here and go down and around the block, but I'm still going to go back to the same road. I'm still headed to the same store. Now, there are some people who are headed down the road, see a minor detour in their spiritual life, and will make a left or right turn, or sometimes just turn around and go back. And but the direction, they end up going to another store. They end up going to another town, so they're not, their original destination has changed. So they're headed down the road, blah, 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 tree across. So, I'm going this way. The hell with going down that road. I'm going to choose this one. Spiritual road, different path, whatever it is. And sometimes it isn't what, it needs to be. Now, they could already be on the wrong road, and making that left or right turn could be the correct turn that they need in their spiritual life. So it works a lot of different ways. But anyway, Lady Spitfire says, tomorrow is you have not converted a man because you have silenced him. Okay, I fought the headache and the headache won. Night, family. Thank you, Hawkeye. I've had those exact thoughts too, Dave. We're tracking together, I see. Yep. Lady Spitfire, good night. And I'm going to say good night as well. It's 2:30 a.m. on a Sunday. So it's been good hanging out with y'all. Thank you, Michelle and Lady Spitfire and everybody else that was hanging in. Yep. Project Skyfalls. So thank you all. Just remember that, it's only as dark as we make it, and although like for me and the priest thing, there's been some really dark times, but, in that darkness, I went and found the light, and the light is stop staying in the dark, build a fire, make sure your light is shining. Make sure your candle stays lit and is bright. And, keep your candle on a bushel basket and not under the thing, as one of the parables in the Bible states. So the idea of Christ, the idea of a Savior, the Savior is in each one of us. And by following the teachings, yes, not the church's teaching, mind you, and by being a good person, and by understanding nature, and by understanding that consciousness is not a duality. There are a lot of people talking about the duality thing. The duality does not exist. It exists because it's their construct. But the duality does not exist. It's one in the same. It's just awake and asleep, but it's still there. The subconscious is always recording. Even though we don't remember everything when we're conscious, we can remember everything in a dream state, but it's still there. So is it on or off? It still exists. Both exist. Oh, I know. That's deep, ain't it? So I love you all. Sweet dreams. Have a pleasant tomorrow. And, there are going to be some folks that are going to really want to make this the darkest hour in our history. In a lot of ways, it is. In that more light needs to be shed on the subjects. So remember, if it's dark, we need to put the fire, we need to make sure that we keep our campfires and the wolves at bay. What do? Put a spiritual light under it and keep a smile. Okay. Be the frequency you wish to receive. And Brian, I know you're out there. We love you, my brother. And to all those who have passed on before us, I continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you will learn to accept and receive the healing, the knowledge, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. I continue to pray that each and every day, you, your friends, your family, all of your relatives, and all of your relations, past, present, and to come, will learn to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and those blessings from the universe. And as the law of three, I continue to pray that each and every one of you will continue to accept and receive and share the knowledge, the wisdom, the healing, and the blessings from the universe. And my continued prayer is that you will continue to reject the chaos and understand the bigger plan. So, my friends, Michelle, Project, Lady Spitfire is already probably gone to bed. We love you. We do. Thank you so much. And Bob, we understand you got a nasty cousin. You've been a good friend to us, Bob. Brian Lunsford, yeah, much love to you too, brother. And if I could get a decent car, I want to come down to the coast and visit my daughter. I would love to come down and, spend the day with you. So, yeah, Brian. And who knows? Maybe we'll see. You know what I meant? Yeah, thank you. So, but anyway, thank you, my friends. And, I can't say enough in that, boy, looking forward in some ways is like, man, there's some scary shit that could happen. But let's do our best to try to avoid it. But anyway, couldn't help yourself. Me neither. All right. Two aspects. Yeah. So until next time. Oh, and I do have a couple other subjects coming up, but these seem to be the ones that are important at the moment. So, but anyway, so keep up the good work and can continue, to stay out of that chaos. So, my friends, TTFN, Ta-ta for now from South Georgia. And I would say, my parting word would be, we all have to choose that line in the sand. Just say, I do not comply, or I will not comply. And that line is whether or not you do or not. Now, understand too, we can't feel guilty if situations change and we have to go, well, I might have to comply a little bit. So in the long run. So be careful, be sweet, be compassionate, and above all else, have a good time and be joyful tomorrow. Let's go play Frisbee, in the park. Much love, everybody. Till next time. Cheers.